Chapter 6. Dani parked her pickup in front of her mom's house and went inside. 2 weeks had been way too long. She couldn't wait to see Mark. "Mark. Where are you?" she called as she stepped through the door without knocking, like she always did. "He's out back playing," her mother's voice called back from the kitchen. Dani set her purse aside and bypassed the kitchen for the door off the family room that led out to the yard. "Monkey, where are you?" she said as she stepped out. "Mom." He hopped out of the tree and ran her way. Dani caught him against her in a hug that left him pressed against her for several moments. "I missed you," Dani said a minute later. "Missed you too, Mama." "Did you have fun?" Mark pulled away and looked up at her. Dani noticed she didn't have to look so far down to be looking at him. "We had a blast. Grandma let me have ice cream almost every night." "Did she?" Dani couldn't help but laugh. Her mom spoiled him something rotten. He was her only grandchild and there didn't look to be any more coming soon, so she lavished everything on him. "You look like you've grown a foot." She ruffled his dark hair and looked down into eyes that reminded her so much of his father. It sent an ache through her chest. "Nah. Only an inch or two." He grinned, showing off a gap in his teeth. Dani took his chin between her thumb and forefinger and tilted his head back. "Lost another one, huh?" "Yep, and the tooth fairy brought me $10. "10, huh? Sounds like the tooth fairy must be getting rich. What did you get with your windfall?" "Legos." Dani wasn't surprised. Mark was obsessed with the blocks. He was ingenious with them, and often created things that would have stumped her on how to build. She loved his enthusiasm, and gave him another hug before she let him go back to his tree climbing. After he had taken off at a run, Dani went inside to see her mom. "How was your trip?" Mom asked once Dani was seated at the island in the middle of the kitchen. "Good, nothing remarkable." "Are you all settled in?" "Mostly. I still have some boxes, but most of the day-to-day stuff is taken care of. Thanks again for keeping Mark and giving me a chance to get unpacked. I love having him. He's a joy." Her mother added ingredients to the mixing bowl in front of her, and stirred with the wooden spoon already in the bowl. "How is your job going?" "Job is good." Dani stood, went to the cabinet and took down a glass. "Not exciting most days but still good." "Are you making friends?" "A few. I've run into some old ones too." "Oh." Maggie went to the cabinet and took out a couple spices. "Anyone I might remember?" "Just Zach Roberts." A bottle fell from her mother's hand and hit the counter with a crash. The lid popped off and the scent of cinnamon filled the room. "Damn. What was that?" Her mother's head dropped a moment, then she picked it up again and turned to face Dani. "There's something I should tell you." Her face was drawn, and her age showed more than it had 2 minutes earlier. "What?" Dani frowned. What could be so bad as to make her mother age like that in mere seconds? "I think you should sit down." "I am sitting." "Well, then maybe I should sit down." She grabbed the stool she kept on the far side of the counter and sat down. "I want you to understand, I didn't know about this until last year. When your dad was in the hospital after the accident, they didn't know if he was going to make it. Now we know he didn't." She fell silent a moment as she stared at her hands. "Anyway, while he was there he told me something. It seemed to be bothering him. At the time I was horrified, then it was too late to do anything about. You were doing well and look at Mark. Then Lloyd died and we were so busy with that." She shook her head as she fell silent again. "Mom, what is it? What did Dad tell you?" Thoughts of affairs, secret children, and worse flashed through Dani's mind. He said to tell you he was sorry. Maggie's voice was so soft, Dani had a hard time hearing her. Sorry he'd come between you and Zach. What do you mean he'd come between us? Dad didn't do that, well, other than the move, but that wasn't his fault. We had to go where there was work. She understood that more now than she had at 17. Before Dani had finished speaking, her mother was shaking her head. He did. She took a deep breath and let it out in a rush. He intercepted letters between you two. Yours to him, his to you also calls. Dani stared at her mother, barely able to breathe. Lloyd said he thought Zach was little more than a beach bum, and you were better off without him, even pregnant. He told Zach you had moved on and wanted nothing more to do with him, to stop calling and sending letters. Dani opened her mouth, but nothing came out. A solid weight fell into her stomach, and for a minute, she had to think about breathing, because her body seemed to have forgotten how. Air in. Air out. Air in. Air out. Zach hadn't turned his back on her. Air in. Air out. Zach hadn't just stopped writing or calling. Air in, air out. Zach didn't know about Mark. Air in, air out. Slowly, the world expanded again. Dani became aware of her mother sitting across the counter, watching her. Oh my God! Dani wasn't sure what to say. This changed everything. I know, her mother said quietly. I didn't think he would still be there, or I would have told you sooner. Me either. I thought about him when I was offered the job, of course, but it's been 10 years. He couldn't wait to leave, to see the world. I really thought there was no chance he would still be around. I was wrong. How did he act? Did he recognize you? Dani told her mom about the encounter at the coffee shop, ending with, knowing what I know now, I'm surprised he was so nice. Then again, Zach was never one to take his anger or his hurt out on people. Way back when, he did his best to keep anyone from knowing when he felt that way. You had to know him well to see it. She thought again about what could have been. How Zach could have been there when their son was born. How he could have been there to hear his son laugh the first time. Dani closed her eyes and let her head fall until her chin hit her chest, as a weight settled in her stomach. She had to tell him. The question was, how?